Hello everybody and welcome back to the second shelf and to a discussion video on this Sunday. Yeah, I haven't done one of those in a while, but there is not a topping, I'm thinking of cake probably. There's a topic at the moment making the rounds in our niche of BookTube about star ratings, particularly Goodreads, and whether you should trust them and how you rate your books, etc., etc. And the discussion was started by Greg over at Supposedly Fun, who is, not only thanking him for starting this discussion, but he's a fantastic booktuber. So check out his video and his channel. And then the topic was picked up by Jacqueline over at 6 Minutes for Me, and yesterday by Doris from All the Books. I will leave their discussion videos about star ratings down below, so you can check all of them out. And I thought, why not join the discussion? So Greg started the question, not so much how you rate your books, but whether you trust star ratings. In this video, and Greg talked about, star ratings, Goodreads, Amazon, wherever. In this video, I'll limit myself to Goodreads because that's actually the only star rating that I do myself and that I look at. I never look at star ratings on Amazon when I order a book. So Goodreads. And to give you an idea, if you're not, maybe you're following me on Goodreads, but to give you an idea as a sort of a basic, a base for the discussion is how I rate the books on Goodreads. Because I don't often write reviews. A lot of times I just, when I finish the book, I rate it. So the first thing you should know is that the star rating on Goodreads is mainly for me. When I, go back and look at the books that I read this year or last year or the year before, that I have an idea of, how much I liked certain books. So I don't overthink it when I give the rating. Sometimes I change it a while later, up or down, but that doesn't happen frequently. So if you're familiar with Goodreads, most of you, I guess, are, you can give 5 stars. And for me, a 5-star book, let me back up here. Okay, backing up, back to my baseline. If you look at my Goodreads, you will see that I would say the majority of books that I read, I rate 3 stars. That's for me, a good book. Nothing spectacular, nothing exceptionally brilliant or fantastic, but also not bad. It's good. If I think a book is really good, if it gives me something to think about, something new, if I, think about the book after I've finished it and probably also want to reread it at some point, then it's 4 stars. The 5 stars, I'm stingy. I only give 5 stars to a book if I think it's really exceptional. So you will see in a year, if I read, 150 books or 200 books, there will only be like 5-6 books that have 5 stars. Those are not necessarily perfect books, because a perfect book doesn't exist, but it's a book that for me personally, I felt was really exceptional. The reading experience, for some reason, was really exceptional. And going down from my baseline of 3 stars to the 2-star book, that means it's a book with a lot of flaws, but it's still okay-ish. I would probably not recommend it. I will most likely not want to reread it either, but it's not a really bad book. It's just, meh. Brian, I know I will have to pay royalties again, for the meh. But it's a meh book. It's okay. It didn't mean a lot to me, but it's okay. The 1-star book, I'm also rather careful with giving 1 star, but that is a book that I think is really bad, that I didn't like at all. Whether it angered me or whether I thought it was badly written or the plot was bad, that's for me a 1 star book, because you can't give 0 stars on Goodreads. So 1 star is the lowest star rating you can give. I also give half points, always in the notes. If it's a 2 star and I give it 2.5, I will write that in the review box in the edit for myself, mainly to know, well, this is a book that I rated 2, but it was a 2.5, so it was between 2 and 3. Anyway, so that's my baseline. If you are interested, how I rate my books. The question that Greg posed was, how much do you look at star ratings? And for me, that would be Goodreads. And how much do you trust them? I look at star ratings particularly of people that I know, readers that I know. If I know their taste and they rated a book really high or really low, then I can sort of see, I can at least have an educated guess whether I would like the book. That could also mean that I look at the star rating of somebody I know and the person rated the book really highly, but I know our taste differences, so that doesn't mean that I would love the book, but it gives me a sort of, an evaluation point. Another thing is the overall average that you always see when you open a book page on Goodreads. You see how it's a 3-point something book, and you can also see how many ratings it has. In Doris's video, she discusses, her approach to looking at the average rating and why she does it and what that means for her. For me, the average rating is not that important, I have to say. I only look at it if it's really quote-unquote abnormal. So if it's, below 3 stars or 3.1 stars, or if it's above 4. Then I would have a look. I would have a look how many people rated the book, and that sort of can influence my decision whether I want to read the book. But it's only one factor. So it's not that I wouldn't pick up a book just because the average rating on Goodreads is 3.1. Another thing that Jacqueline also discussed, but also Doris, is I'm always careful with the average rating if it's a new release, because I know, how it works, that people get sent ARCs and they know the author or they are friendly with the publisher, and then they all rated 5 stars. So if it's a really new release and there are, 50 ratings and they're all between 4 and 5 stars, I don't pay that much attention to it, I have to admit, because, I know how this works. Which brings me to an interesting point that Jacqueline made, because she receives a lot of ARCs, she requests a lot of not yet published books to rate, and there's this, like I just said, there is this, suspicion going around that people who get a lot of ARCs and who review a lot of books that are new releases, give them high ratings just to, be nice and have the publisher send more books. The people I know, like Jacqueline, I know they wouldn't do that. So if there's a new release and Jacqueline rates it 5 stars, that means something to me. So I have this suspicion about, the group of people who rates new books, but certainly not people that I know myself. I don't receive that many ARCs. I am a member of NetGalley and I request ARCs there and get a lot of ARCs there, and I rate them just as I would any other book, with one slight difference. but that doesn't have anything to do with whether it's an arc or not. I'm always a little bit more um, lenient or positive if it's a debut, because I think, the fact that an author wrote his or her first book, um, I don't expect that book to be, the best book this author will ever write. So if I read a debut, whether it's an arc or whether it's a debut from 10 years back that I haven't read yet, I will always start with a little bit of a more lenient rating than I would if it's the author's 10th book. I expect more from an author who already has written 10 books than I expect from an author that has only written the first one. And another point I should have probably made way earlier, but I forgot, is when you look at Goodreads, especially, ratings of people but overall, I also know that people have vastly different systems to give books a certain rating. I know that a lot of people, if you look at Goodreads and you look at the review, they really didn't like the book and they gave it 3 stars. So, that you have to take that into account, that for a lot of people, 3 stars is a bad book, whereas for me, it's an average good book. The same goes, for 5 stars. They give 5 stars for a book they think is good, which would mean for me 3 stars. So you also really have to be careful or realizing that the way people give out their star ratings is vastly different. So that also means that the average rating is not a reflection, of my way of rating books, but it's the average of all the people rating books, knowing that 3 stars is for most people not a good book. So that is interesting as well. And the last thing I want to briefly mention, because all 3 of the booktubers, Greg and Jacqueline and Doris, also discussed that, is written reviews. I find them always very interesting, but I personally only read them after I read the book, to see, especially from readers I know, whether they agree on certain points that I also have about the book, even though I don't write that many reviews on Goodreads. So that's an interesting thing for me after the fact. I hardly ever look at written reviews before I read the book myself. That's the same in newspapers. I'm always careful, to look at an extensive written review before I read the book myself, because I want to mainly go into the book without the preconceptions or the results of another reader about the book. I don't want to be stirred in a certain direction of what is important in the book or what is not important in the book. So these were my thoughts on book ratings, especially on Goodreads. And I'm curious to know, of course, your opinion. First of all, if you have any questions, I'm sure that there are topics that I didn't discuss in the video. Ask me if you want to know something in particular about the star ratings I give or how I look at them. But I'm also interested whether you rate books, whether you look at the ratings, whether you trust the ratings, whether you look at the written review. So let me know down in the comments. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this discussion and will participate, and I'll see you all soon in the next one. Bye-bye.